Here he is. Hi, it's Eden Longson. I am the big boy with the bigger dreams, and welcome to Big Boy Bigger Dreams, the only podcast I've ever heard of. I've not done a lot of research into it, but from what I can tell, I'm probably the only one. Again, very little research done into it, but, drop a comment if you've heard of another one. If another weirdo has decided to put, his entire life on the internet for some reason. Maybe he and I can start a support group for each other, which blossoms into a beautiful friendship / dark brooding romance. I don't know. But anyway, my name is Eden. Like I say, Eden Longson. I am a composer. I am a drummer. I am a poet. I'm a podcaster, technically. A lover of many fine things. And I'm also trying to see the positives. That's this week's sort of motto. And I say this week, obviously, I haven't uploaded an episode in a couple weeks, and I'm not quite keeping to the fortnightly schedule that I was hoping, but I'm certainly keeping to sort of at least once a month. So that's pretty good, I'd say. But I like to do a mental health check when it comes to these episodes, so let's do that now. But on the other wall I can see a foothold to climb over it. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm at the gates of hell, but I can smell the baking in the heaven kitchen. So it's a bit I know badness, but also I can see goodness on the horizon. Maybe. Again, trying to see the positives. Trying to see the positives in this thing. But anyway, I like to do a bit of journaling when it comes to this podcast, and I like to tell you about what's going on in my life, so let's do that now. Okay, so to start off with, I had an amazing gig. I was telling you guys about this last time. I did a gig at the Etc. Theatre in Camden, and my friend Joe McWilliam sang my song, Nothing, like he did at the Other Palace in January. This time, unfortunately, my friend Giles couldn't make the gig, and so he couldn't play. So fellow composer and musical director Rachel, I really hope I'm saying her last name right, Blackieri or Blackieri. I'm not sure. I'm really sorry, Rachel, if you listen to this. I'm sorry, I'm butchering your last name. Rachel Blackieri, I think, who was brilliant, who did a brilliant job, and she stepped in fairly last minute to play on this tune. I'm very grateful, so grateful that I should know how to pronounce her last name. But there we go. And just extra bit of male privilege, I guess. Ugh. It was brilliant. It was part of the event was called Voice Notes, and it was done by the Eclipse Collective, who are sort of this new musical theatre sort of writing kind of collective. I think it's sort of a space for new musical theatre writers, set up by this bloke called David, who's brilliant. And it was a really great night. It was really great to hear other composers, other new works, including a couple of people I'd already seen and heard of, including my friend Lizzie, who was actually at and performed at the January Mercury Musical Developments gig at the Other Palace. And it was a really great gig. It was just wonderful. And I think Joe and Rachel did a brilliant job, and it was just so much fun. And it was also the first time a paying audience has been there for one of my musical theatre songs. So it's the first time people have paid to hear my musical theatre work. People have paid to hear my compositions. People paid to go to the City of Stoke-on-Trent Symphony Orchestra gig. People paid to go to gigs at the RNCM, I assume. Whereas this was musical theatre. And it's starting to happen. Like I said before, 2026 is my year, and it's the year of Eden starts to write musical theatre properly and gets paid for it. I didn't get paid for that gig, but I will get paid. Promise. I always remember when I was a teenager, I used to do gigs, local gigs, And it would be like me and some mates. I was in a band called Snake Eyes Johnny. I was in a band called Cities That Sleep. I was in a band called Inglorious. Oh my god, I was in Moral Panics for a while, for a couple of years there. Was that all the bands I was in when I was a teenager? There was also Perfunction, but that was more of a function band with Best Name Ever, come up with by my friend Kieran Algar, friend of the podcast. Perfunction. Perfection, Perfunction, and that's function as in like function band, and then funk with a K because we played pop tunes, but it was like, pretty funky how we did it. And so yeah, I remember in those bands you'd go to gigs and you'd play all these gigs around town, around Stoke-on-Trent, and you would do like the Underground and the Sugar Mill, and there used to be the Full Moon and the Old Brown Jug, Granvilles, and it'd be really fun, but ultimately you just would never get paid. Like, you try and sell as many tickets as you possibly could. What used to happen is they used to give you like 40 maybe tickets, like physical tickets, and you could sell them, and if we did really well maybe we'd shift 20, but really I knew my friend Ant Hume, who now runs Riff Factory in Stoke-on-Trent. He was an absolute menace for it. He could sell so many tickets. I don't know what it was. He was just such a good salesman. He was just so good at going into sixth form and just like selling them to everyone, because they used to be like £4 or whatever, £5, and as someone who's very much like, oh, don't worry, you don't have to come, it was hard for me to shift that kind of ticket. But Anthony, he would just walk into college and just be like, hey, come and see my band, £5 please. It was brilliant. But my mum and dad would always be like, oh, how much did you get paid for this gig? Like, what do you mean? Like, I am losing money. I'm paying for the rehearsal space when I go. I'm paying petrol to get to the gig, and like I'm buying a foot-long Subway like before the gig. I am out of money. So this gig was sort of like, I didn't get paid, but people did pay to see it, and so I'm maybe on that journey, because now I get paid to play drums and do shows and gigs and whatever. So I'm hoping that now that I've had people actually pay to see my stuff, eventually means I will get paid for people to have seen my stuff, if that makes sense. Anyway, the performance from the gig of my song Nothing, which is from my upcoming song cycle, Songs from the Edge of the Void, and that performance is now on YouTube. So go onto YouTube and you can watch Joe and Rachel sing through my tune, which is really exciting. I write show tunes now, and they get played in front of a sold out paying audience, which is just very exciting and just very heartwarming and affirming. Like I say, I can see a foothold to get over the wall. I can smell a pie being made in a kitchen in heaven. I can't decide if that metaphor is maybe a bit too heavy-handed or a bit too religious. I'm not religious, so I don't know. I'm just chatting nonsense, as I usually do, to be fair. That is my want on this podcast, I will say. Anyway, I've been to see a couple of cool gigs. I went to see, the night before that Voice Notes gig, I went to see Into the Woods at the Bridge Theatre, which my friend Reb is currently playing violin for, and it was brilliant. My friend Seb as well is playing on it, but I don't think he was playing on that night. I didn't see him, but Maria and I went to go see Into the Woods at the Bridge Theatre, and yeah, phenomenal. I genuinely loved it. The moment when the curtain comes up and you see stuff, it just, I don't want to say too much just in case anyone wants to go see it, but genuinely a really, really good production. I saw some not negative things, but I saw some people be like, oh, it's not amazing, they haven't really nailed Into the Woods, and for me it was great. For me it was really, really good. I really, really liked it. It highlighted for me some things about the second act that don't work 100% for me, but that's the writing, and I hate to say anything bad about sometimes writing, because sometimes is, my musical theatre sort of hero, but it was just quite interesting to see it and to like have opinions about like, oh, does that work? What does that mean? But it was really wonderfully presented and wonderfully acted and performed. Yeah, genuinely top tier. Really, really, really loved it. And then we had Pancake Day, which was incredible. I had 3 sets of pancakes. I had pancakes in the morning, then I had pancakes again a couple hours later, and then after dinner had more pancakes. I love Pancake Day. I think I may have talked about it on the podcast before, but I love Pancake Day. I love making pancakes. I'm really good at doing it. I'm amazing at making pancakes. I know exactly how to do it. I know all the techniques that are available to making pancakes. I know them all. I've got it all up here. Always crepe pancakes on Pancake Day. I want to make that very clear. I don't want any American style pancakes on Pancake Day. That Jesus would cry if that was to happen. Jesus would cry. So Pancake Day was amazing. And around Pancake Day, I was actually up in Stoke on Pancake Day because I was meant to be getting a new car that I bought, but then turns out they hadn't done the MOT. So I'd been up to look at it a couple of weeks before, and they hadn't done the MOT, and the garage messed me around. So I was like, you know what, sod this. Didn't buy the car. Went and looked at a couple of other garages on Pancake Day. Found another car, fell in love with it, bought it, which is great. It's very exciting to have a new car in my life. I find with cars, this car is one of those ones that doesn't have, it's got push button ignition, which I hate. And I know Giles and Kieran, who listen to this podcast, are going to be so mad at me for being like, I like it when a car has an actual key that goes in the ignition because it feels more real, and they're going to be like, oh, just give over. And I think it's because I'm reticent for change. As much as I like to try and progress and hope my career will change and get better and move in terms of things like technology, I wish everything would just stay the same, really. And I'm going to be proven right when AI ruins all our lives, but I think there's something about, I don't trust a touch ignition, like a button ignition. I want a key to go in there and do it. But it's a really nice car, and yeah, it's got CarPlay. My last car was a 2011 car, so to have a car that's more modern than that just feels kind of crazy and feels really fun. It's really exciting. It's really, really exciting. And there was also sort of another opportunity that came up over that time, and I can't really talk about it yet, and I will talk about it at some point. It just, things need to be confirmed before I do that. But that's a really exciting opportunity that I'm very excited to talk about, and has brought me a lot of stress because it means I'm having to cancel quite a few things and work around things. But the thing itself is just so amazing and exciting. I just want to talk about it, but that's it. I'm gonna stop there. I went to see some films over the last couple of weeks. What have I been to see? I went to see No Other Choice, Wuthering Heights, Wasteman, and I did see Hamnet. I'm not sure if I saw that by the time I last did one of these podcasts, but I have seen Hamnet as well, and all 4 movies quite interesting. Hamnet, beautiful, cried like a little baby, and just thought it was wonderful. Jessie Buckley deserves all the flowers, and Max Richter's score 10 out of 10. Actually, that's not true. Max Richter's use of his own tune from years ago on The Nature of Daylight, perfect. That's an amazing piece of music. It was used in Arrival to great effect. Really, really worked, but it was a bit like, that's not really part of the score, that's a song you already own. But whatever, the rest of the score was like good, but that one needle drop was like, 10 out of 10. But anyway, the film was wonderful. I then have also seen No Other Choice, which is a South Korean movie. It's interesting how the South Korean media that I've interacted with, so this and Parasite and other Bong Joon-ho movies, so like Snowpiercer and Mickey 17, are all kind of about how terrible capitalism is. So No Other Choice, there's this bloke who has like a middle management kind of job, I guess, and he loses his job, and it becomes, it's catastrophic. Like, he loses his job, and literally the next scene he's in like a massive help group where all these people are like chanting like, it's okay that I've lost my job, and like doing this tapping thing on their forehead where it's like, I'm okay, I'm a man, and it's just, yeah, it's terrifying and sad, and like how we're all so easily replaced, and yeah, amazing. But then it gets to some really dark and weird places. It's a really weird film, but I really liked it. I really loved it. I thought it was really good. Definitely weird. and shot really weirdly as well, like really uniquely. I can't remember the director's name, but he's done a fair few other movies. So it was written and directed by Park Chan-wook, who also did Old Boy, which is a film I haven't seen, but I very much would like to see. So yeah, No Other Choice, really weird movie. Really, really weird movie. But definitely worth a watch. Then I've seen 2 other movies since then, and I've seen Wuthering Heights, Emerald Fennell's Wuthering Heights, which I have lots of opinions about. My first opinion, which is shared by everyone, it's not Wuthering Heights. And when I say that, I mean, because I have Wuthering Heights here because I want to reread it because of the movie, but I don't particularly care that it's not Wuthering Heights. I don't care about how much of an adaptation it is or not, but it just genuinely isn't. I mean, it stops halfway through the book, and like the rest of the book is about Cathy's daughter and Heathcliff, and so it's just about Heathcliff and Cathy, and that's fine. But also, you could have just called this film something else and had it be set somewhere else, like a sort of sultry period drama based in rural England around that time. Like, why not? You know. And I think it went to some weird places. I loved the sets. I loved Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi are brilliant, and Martin Clunes was a revelation. Didn't know he could be that brilliant as a dramatic actor. Genuinely, the score as well, like, was phenomenal. Like, it really, really worked. Charlie XCX's songs were just like perfect at setting the scene. My issue was that the film was like about how sexy this all is, and that's great, and some of the eroticism was incredible, but then it just got like silly and eventually started to be like, this is a romance. This is such a romance. Aren't you heartbroken at the end of this romance? And I'm like, no. You presented these characters as awful people, and actually saying that, Heathcliff isn't even that awful. He's actually just kind of annoyed that Cathy has found someone else, even though he could have asked her himself. And yeah, just weird. And I just feel like it was an abridgment of the story at which point just call it something else. It's literally not an adaptation, and that's a bit of a shame. And yeah, and the whole, I know lots of people have spoken about the whole race thing with Heathcliff definitely being a person of colour, which is kind of interesting because then they did make Edgar Linton is played by a South Asian actor, which is just kind of interesting, and Nellie is played by an Asian actor as well. And that's just quite like, oh, right, so you are looking to cast non-white actors, but only in the supporting roles. The one character who definitely is a person of colour from the books, that has to be a sexy white Australian man. That's just kind of interesting, isn't it? And just kind of revealing. But also, something that I hate is that people talk about like, these characters do this, and that means that Emerald Fennell thinks that's okay. I was like, no, like, can't people write bad guys anymore? When George Lucas wrote Darth Vader, he wasn't saying that those things were good. If you were to make a film about Hitler and show him doing all the stuff he was doing and trying to get it done and try and be triumphant in what he was doing, I'd be like, yes, doing the worst thing imaginable, doing the worst thing that ever happened in history. It's not like it's glorifying it or saying it's good, it's just showing it. And I think that's the thing. I think people don't want moral ambiguity anymore in their movies. They don't want, and it's like people, it's even like Dune 2, one of my favourite movies of all time, certainly one of my favourite movies since the 2020s. That movie is incredible, and it highlights the thing about Frank Herbert's writing that people kind of forget, is that the main guy, Paul, isn't so good. He is abusing this native religion, and he is doing that for his own ends because he wants retaliation against what happened to his father and to his house, and he becomes emperor at the end of it. Spoilers for a movie that came out 3 years ago, and it's amazing. But Paul's not the good guy. pulls a warning as to why you shouldn't believe religious figures and prophets, and how you should question those people, and about how the people who put themselves in those positions do it through mass bloodshed and badness. And I remember my sister went to see it, and she was like, "Oh, that was just great. It was so clear cut, baddies and goodies." It's like, is it? There's what? There's no real goodies in that movie. It's morally ambiguous. Even the good guys, even the Fremen, are waging a jihad and killing people who don't believe in what they believe. That's bad, isn't it? Am I crazy? So yeah, I think people don't want moral ambiguity in the movies, which is interesting, because then the fourth movie I saw was Waste Man by I can't remember who wrote and directed it, but David Johnson was the main star of it. Alex Hassel's in it as well, and Tom Blythe. And brilliant movie, shot square, or at least 4:3, and all the shots are it's set in a prison. It's based around this character Tyler, who lives in a prison because of the manslaughter that he did, and it's about his potential early release, and then he gets a new cellmate who wants to be the biggest boy in the prison. And there's a lot of very tight close-up on characters. It's very, very claustrophobic. Made me think of 12 Angry Men in that sense. And also there was a lot of interstitial shots of phone footage of prisoners filming themselves in prison doing raps, or exercising, or just videoing each other getting into scraps and fights and whatever, because it's impossible to keep phones out of prisons anymore, because they your mate flies a drone over the top and drops it in, and you go fetch it. Really, really good film. Incredibly morally ambiguous, but beautiful, haunting, definitely quite sad, but really, really, really good. I really loved it. I thought it was a really good film. I am currently on a show. I'm on Little Shop of Horrors at the Alec Reed Academy, which is a lot of fun. It's a million miles away from my house, but that's okay. That's fine. And I mean, everything in London is a million miles away from your house. It's really annoying. And that's the worst thing, is it's not a million miles away, but it feels like it is, because London is so dense. It's just, you can't just drive through it. And if you have to get a train, you have to get into central and out. It's a whole thing. I don't want to bore you with how hard it is to get around London, but sometimes it is. And yeah, so Little Shop, it's a great show. I mean, it's only the 5-piece orchestration, and it's with a school, and they've hired some really cool props for Audrey 2, the big plant, and some of the rest of the band are great, but it is also very low stakes, because it is just a school production. And yeah, I mean, I've played the show before, and I love the show, so it's a really easy play for me. But yeah, so that's what I've been doing with my life. Let's get on today's topic. So today's topic is about how it's so difficult to know what to do. And when I say that, I mean as in, when you want to be making stuff like I do. I know I want to be drumming, composing, writing, podcasting, making videos, writing poetry, but it's just I don't know, which do you focus on? And what if you don't want to focus on one? You want to focus on a few and work on a few, and it's well, which one do I work on right now? And also, if I'd have just focused on drumming, forever, not composed, not done any of that, just drum, maybe I'd be on the West End right now. Maybe. I don't know. Not to say that I'm that good, but maybe. But I'm not wired like that. I'm wired to make my own little empire of lots of different things. I need to have several irons and several fires. So, and whenever I find myself with a free day or an evening, it's I sit there paralyzed by choice. What do I work on today? I guess I could compose something. I guess I could write something towards my musical. I guess I could write a poem. I guess I could record a podcast. I guess I could record a different type of podcast. I guess I could record a different type of video. I could work on my CV. I could be emailing people. I could be knocking down doors. There's just a billion things I could be doing. and I'm sure I'll have missed stuff off that list. But it's just so difficult because you have to be so self-generating. And in an ideal world, I would have like a business partner. And if anyone out there wishes to volunteer themselves as tribute, please do. I would love to have someone who said, hey, we need to get this done, so tonight you're doing this. Oh, it'd be great. I find it really difficult to self-motivate on that kind of thing. But then I also hate working like in a system where I have like a direct boss who tells me everything to do. So kind of difficult to find out where you fit in the world when you have those kind of feelings. But I need to give myself deadlines. I mean, it'd be easier if there was like an end goal, but there isn't one, right? Like there is no end goal. Like I won't have achieved my dreams. My dreams are just lots of projects that keep going until I die. The aim is to get the projects to be able to pay me to live. So I don't have to teach drums anymore, and I'm not worried anymore. I can just spend all day doing those projects, and that's the end goal. And I saw there's this great video series I've been seeing of this woman saying, how long does it actually take? And she basically helps her friends with chores they've been procrastinating on. It's really, really cool. She's amazing. But she said on one of her videos, like, marathon runners don't think about the next 26 miles. They think about the next water station. So they've got to run 26 miles, but you can't think that far ahead. You have to think of when's the next water station. You hop from station to station. And I think I need to plan out some water stations. You know, back at Christmas, when I was on the Panto, I was talking about these islands and the maintenance and upkeep of these islands. And that's the thing. There's no end goal to that. You're just doing little chores around the island. But you need to remember that when you've done one of those chores, you've done something towards the upkeep and the progress of the islands. Not thinking to yourself, when will I have finished all these items? When will I have finished all these things? But then you also don't want to make it just busy work and then never getting anywhere. Like, how do you accomplish that dichotomy? Like, I want to be upkeeping, but I want to be progressing as well. How do you balance that? And I need to figure that out. That's something I'm still figuring out as a creative, and something I want to focus on going forward. I have a poem for you. This poem is called Click. Why does opening an email feel the same as a caveman peeking at a beast from behind a rock? Why does checking messages feel just like a knight seeing just how hungry the dragon turned out to be? If I produce 2 blue ticks, will I cause an avalanche somewhere? Am I to be blamed for trapping skiers caught unaware? If I don't read or inquire, the woods won't catch fire. If I stay in the shadow, I won't have to face a foe. I won't get hurt, nor will I move. I'll never grow or learn. I won't have to prove myself to anyone, improve myself for anything. If I'm sat behind a rock at the foot of the cave, yes, I'll remain unscathed, but you don't win hearts or fair maiden. If you cannot be brave and open the message, open the email, you've got a club made of rocks, a sword, and chainmail. Click. Oh. Wasn't as bad as I expected. I don't feel badass, but also not dejected. Maybe it's time to face the laundry. There you go, that was Click. Sort of, again, a bit about my decision paralysis and my difficulty in reading messages that I maybe don't want to read. Emails I'm terrible for, messages I'm terrible for. I just get so stressed at the idea that if I read it, that means it's going to happen and I have to enact things from that email. It's very, very stressful for me. But I'm going to get better at it. At least I'm going to try to. I'm going to quickly go through my top 4 for the week. So this week's top 4 is my top 4 favourite hard bop albums. So hard bop is a specific branch of jazz which comes out of the bebop era of the 50s, and it's later, sort of the late 50s and 60s. And you have proponents like Miles Davis, Cannibal Adderley, Herbie Hancock was part of that, Kenny Dorham, Charles Mingus was also part of that, and Art Blakey, the Jones, Paul Chambers, loads of people. It's a wonderful period of history in the jazz world. What I do think is interesting that style of jazz has now become what you do on jam nights, which is just kind of odd to me. That's been the thing that's like stuck. And, you know, I think basically progress in jazz since then has like slowed down. And instead of having like new progressions every decade, it's become like the only real advancement we've had in jazz like since then is post hip hop jazz. So adding in more sort of hip hop beats and trap beats and things like that, you know. So yeah, these are my favourite hard bop albums, 4 of them anyway, and not necessarily my favourite, just 4 that I think are important. The first being Cannonball Adderley's Something Else from 1958. Wonderful album. The first half is literally 2 songs, Autumn Leaves and Love for Sale, which, 2 things interesting. The first thing is Miles Davis features on this record, but in like a sort of backup role, kind of. He takes a lot of the melodies and a lot of the solos, but Cannonball Adderley sort of like supports that. It's just kind of wonderful to see, you know, Cannonball Adderley is like, this is my record, but I'm also going to let this amazing, great play on my album with me and share that spotlight. And that's just really beautiful. And the Autumn Leaves is incredible. Like, the solos in that are mad. And the version of Love for Sale, Art Blakey lays down just a really wonderful, sort of subtle but fast-paced and energetic groove. And it's also just another great example of a musical theatre tune, because this is a Cole Porter tune being put into the jazz repertoire, which I quite enjoy. And there's a long-standing tradition of that. There's loads and loads of musical theatre tunes that become jazz tunes. You know, John Coltrane's My Favourite Things. There's a long-standing history of it. Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers, their album Moanin' from 1958 as well. So Art Blakey actually played on Cannonball Adderley's Something Else, and I love this album a lot. I really, really do. I think I have to say, the Moanin', the title track, not to be confused with Charles Mingus's Moaning, is one of my favourite tunes of all time. It's got this wonderful call and response. It's got a piano solo that I think is maybe my favourite jazz solo of all time. So the pianist is Bobby Timmons, who actually wrote the tune Moanin', and that piano solo is just incredible. And Art Blakey is an absolute monster of a player. Like, I love watching him play. There's some great clips of him with earlier, you know, combos playing like a Night in Tunisia, but at like insane BPMs that's just incredible. I love Art Blakey. I love him so much, and I love this album. But yeah, that tune Moanin' is just one of the greatest jazz standards of all time. I always, whenever I'm on a jam session, I'm always trying to get people to play that tune because I love it. Yeah, it's just brilliant. Check it out. The next is the 1959 album Our Room by Charles Mingus. This has got like Better Get In Your Soul, Fable of Faustus, Goodbye Pork by Hat. I love this album. I love this album so much. And Self-Portrait in Three Colours. Just, it's one of those things where it's like hard bop and takes advantage of being that kind of style, but you can really hear Mingus changing the forms. It's not just head solos, head anymore. There's progression sometimes through the tunes. There's like interesting things that happen, and that's really interesting because Charles Mingus then goes on to have albums like what is it, the wife of the fisherman's wife. Oh my god, what's that album called? I mean, there's The Black Saint and the Sinner Lady. Incredible. Let My Children Hear Music with the song The Shoes of the Fisherman's Wife Are Some Dry-Ass Slippers. What a song. And Let My Children Hear Music, a great album, came out some 14 years after Our Room, and definitely isn't hard bop. It's definitely sort of more, I don't know, third stream experimental jazz, orchestral jazz, symphonic jazz maybe even. And yeah, it's beautiful. But Our Room, you can really see bop actually start to transform in an amazing way, which Charles Mingus did, and in my opinion, not enough other people did. Now, my favourite final one is John Coltrane's Giant Steps. First of all, you've got Namer, incredible tune. You've got Mr. PC, one of my favourite tunes to do on jam nights, but also Giant Steps, which is this crazy tune that just like, you might have heard of Giant Steps, but it's this tune that uses the circle of fifths to just like go around basically every single chord during the head. It's just wild. And like, it's one of those things where I know a lot of sax players and a lot of musicians pride themselves on being able to navigate the chord changes of Giant Steps just because it's so crazy and so innovative, and it's just really fun to listen to. Really fun, really weird. And I don't know if this is true, but my teacher at my master's told me that John Coltrane actually only ever played that song live twice, because it was meant to be sort of more of like an exercise in what you can do in this sort of like post-bop, hard bop tonality. And that's really interesting to me, because now it's become such this ubiquitous "this is jazz" tune. And it's like, well, John Coltrane didn't think it was "this is jazz." He just thought this was a really cool study in this tonality, in this world. So all these albums have like innovation in them, and it's just, yeah, I love them so much. So we've got Cannibal Adderley, Something Else, Art Blake and the Jazz Messengers, Moaning, Charles Mingus' Arum, and John Coltrane's Giant Steps. Go listen to some hard bop. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. I've been Eden Lonkson, the big boy with the bigger dreams. You've been listening to episode 53, which I think I've given it a name. The Night of Procrastination. Knight. There's been a lot of sort of medieval knight metaphor in this one. Anyway, love you all, peace, and I'll check you on the next one. Hopefully it won't be so long. Bye. Thank you for consuming today's human-made slop, courtesy of Blow the Thunderwell Podcast Network. You can follow Blow the Thunderwell at blow_the_thunderwell, spelt exactly how it sounds, or you can follow me, Eden Lonkson, at Eden of the Universe. Stream my music on all streaming platforms, as well as my heavy jazz project from the Thunder. Ta-ra!